Welcome back, my mystics. Now, instead of diving straight into the root chakra, I just want to take a moment and talk about Voldemort's obsession with creating the Horcrux themselves. Nothing is worse than death, Dumbledore. You are so naive. There is nothing worse, Voldemort said. And have you ever wondered why Voldemort feared death more than anything else? Why he tore his soul into 7 pieces, scattering it across objects, people, and power? Because in truth, Voldemort isn't just a villain. He's the embodiment of the ego when it becomes terrified of its own impermanence. In mythology, the ego is often described as a necessary illusion. It's the mask we wear to navigate the world. It gives us a name, a face, a sense of I am. But when that illusion forgets its source, when it believes it is the soul, it begins to grasp, to hoard, and to control. And that's exactly what Tom Riddle became. A boy abandoned and unloved, who believed that power was the only way to stay safe. Each Horcrux he created was an act of spiritual rebellion, not just against death, but against his own divinity. Because the moment you split your soul, you deny its unity. You break the sacred flow between the body, mind, and spirit, which is the true trinity of a being. And Voldemort's journey mirrors what happens when the ego hijacks the throne of self. The soul whispers, let go. But the ego screams, I must survive. So we build our own Horcruxes, not from dark magic, but from attachment to the relationships we won't release, the identity we cling to, and the belief systems that success and recognition will finally make us whole. Every time we attach our worth to something external, we carve off a piece of our soul and hide it, just like Voldemort did. Not in a diary or a locket, but in the illusion that promised safety while stealing our peace. In Jungian psychology, this is called the ego inflation. It's the moment the self becomes consumed by its own reflection. Jungian said, the greater the shadow, the smaller the soul's light. Voldemort became the shadow of the world he tried to control. His disconnection from love, from empathy, and even mortality itself. And Alfred Adler, another great psychologist, he believed that the root of all human suffering is the struggle for superiority. When we feel small, powerless, and unseen, the ego compensates. It builds walls, it seeks dominance, and that's exactly what Voldemort's story warns us about. That when fear drives our search for power, we destroy our very essence we're trying to preserve. There's something hauntingly human in that, isn't there? We all fear the depth of identity, the loss of control, the surrender to something greater. But every spiritual text, from the Bhagavad Gita to the Bible, tells us the liberation only comes when we die before we die. When we allow the false self to dissolve, so the true soul can awaken. Voldemort tried to cheat that truth. He thought he could outsmart mortality. But in doing so, he severed the bridge between heaven and earth. That same bridge that the chakras represent. That same current that connects us to the divine, our divine consciousness. And in the end, it wasn't Harry who destroyed him. But like Dumbledore always said, it was love. It was the one frequency Voldemort cannot comprehend, because love requires surrender. Love requires the ego to fall to its knees and say, I'm not the center of the universe, but I'm part of it. So when we look at Voldemort, we shouldn't see darkness. We should see the reflection of what happens when we forget who we truly are. When fear replaces faith and the need to control, well, that replaces willingness to trust. Every soul makes this choice. Will I fragment myself in pursuit of power? Or will I return to wholeness, even if it means surrendering to the illusion of control? Because the truth is, we cannot destroy the ego by force. We can only love it into integration. reminded that it was never an enemy to begin with, but rather only a frightened child trying to protect us from the pain around us. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living, and above all, those who live without love. And that's what Voldemort teaches us through his misguided actions, that immortality doesn't come from splitting the soul. It comes from remembering it. And if this episode helps you see that Harry Potter in a deeper way, hit like and subscribe for more mythic psychology and spiritual insights from the Wizarding World. In next episode, we'll dive into the root chakra and who and why it was destroyed and what that actually reveals about the energy around the Horcrux and the person who destroyed it. Because magic, after all, is only the mirror of consciousness, and every spell begins with the soul.